All right, we're going to start right here on the mind. So your mind basically is located outside of your brain. So we're trying to separate, and then we're going to put everything back together, right? So we're going to separate it all apart into pieces and parts, and then we're going to pull it back together for a good understanding. So your mind basically is located outside of the brain, not in relationship to your body. So if you can think of it that way, what your mind does is give you new information. It gives you aha moments. It's those original ideas, the things that you wouldn't normally think about. It's about thinking the new original thoughts, right? Your mind is the seat of your soul. You've heard that. The mind, will, and emotions are what make up the soul. So your mind is the seat of the soul. Okay, so that's your mind. Let's talk about the brain for a second. Your brain is that processor. It processes all the information. It stores information, and it runs the physical body function. So your brain physically does all kinds of stuff. It does things we probably don't even know about even still. So the brain is a big processor. What we're looking at it for is the storage capacity. What is it doing when it's storing the daily things that we go through in life? So now we're going to go right into the subconscious mind and the conscious mind. What are those two things? So subconscious and conscious, it's not defined where they are. So meaning, are they located inside your brain? Are they outside of the body somewhere in kind of an esoteric kind of way? There's a train of thought that asks the question, are they even real? Is that even a real thing? Or is it just a concept that somebody made up to talk about? So we had language to talk about these concepts and these ideas. So subconscious mind and conscious mind. And we'll talk about a little bit more of what the role of each one of those is in a bit. But whether they're part of the body, whether they're inside the brain, whether they're just an esoteric kind of concept, they are part of the electrical circuitry that runs and regulates the physical body. And just by the way that people talk about them, they've become that. So we can't really throw those out of the equation. We have to keep them locked in there. But I think I'm going to be able to explain it on more of a science level here in just a second, so just bear with me. So your conscious mind, a dictionary definition, is being aware of and responding to one's surroundings. It means you're awake, right? That awake thing that we talk about all the time, that you have knowledge of something, you're aware. So it's your awareness factor. If you listen to Dr. Bruce Lipton, and I believe there's quite a few other people too, he specifically has said that conscious mind is only 5% of your operational daily thinking. 5%, that's all you get out of your conscious mind. That's kind of crazy, isn't it? Your subconscious mind, on the other hand, is 95% of your daily thinking. That's where 95% of your daily thinking comes from, is your subconscious. So subconscious, according to the dictionary, is a part of the mind of which one is not fully aware, but it influences one's actions and feelings. So you get influence from your subconscious mind on your actions and feelings, where your conscious mind is just having knowledge of something and being aware. Okay, so distinctions between the two. All right, so the subconscious mind holds on to beliefs, thoughts, words spoken, emotional value. It actually helps you put language to what you're feeling by giving you emotional titles. Impressions, pictures, smells, sensations. Those become memories, they become beliefs, they become reality of what many people think about themselves. It becomes the reasons for what we do and don't do in our lives. It's very interesting, the control that the subconscious mind has over a person, right? Because if the things that you've gone through in the course of your life become what you believe about yourself, and if those things weren't good, if they were like negative issues, if they were trauma that you survived, if they were things and you never got a good spin put towards it, what is that doing? How is that playing out in your daily life? So let's talk about the neuroplasticity and neural pathways for a second. So neuroplasticity is basically a neuron and a protein that combines inside your brain. So physically, creating matter inside your brain. So when they say when you think a thought, you create matter, they're not joking. You really are. It's that protein and neuron bond coming together that create the matter inside your brain. And what it looks like on a scan, according to Dr. Caroline Leaf, is a branch of a tree. So as it grows out and extends into different areas of your brain, every time you think that same thought, you get another connection. So you're creating neural pathways and creating neuroplasticity every time you think a thought. And if it's in coherence with one of these old memories, you're building out that loop or that thought process. The ones that are accessed the most are the ones that get strong and become, that should say, strongholds. And basically what that is a stronghold in your life. Right? So the ones that you access the most, so that's the stuff that you think about the most. So if you're thinking and accessing old thoughts and memories from a childhood incident over and over again, even if you're not realizing you're doing it, if it's from a subconscious place and you're not aware of it, and those things keep coming up, that trauma keeps coming up, it's going to get stronger and stronger every time that thought comes into your head. So within that, you're creating your life. You're creating what you're holding on to and what you're valuing and what you're perceiving as maybe your personality, as part of your functioning daily self. Right? So what do we do that? So the reality is, and here you go, your conscious mind controls about 5% of your daily thinking activity. The other 95% is from your conscious or your subconscious mind. So there's the distinction between the two. Your conscious mind controls 5% of your daily thinking. That's nuts to me. Your awareness factor, right? And everybody's always talking about, oh, you got to be aware, become aware of what's around you, be in the moment. How can you do that if your conscious mind is only in control 5% with 5% of your thinking? If the other 95% is subconscious and it's coming out of trauma or places from your childhood and accessing memories that aren't benefiting you, how's that working for you? I know how it was working for me. It wasn't very good. So if the subconscious thinking comes from trauma, pain, bad thoughts, beliefs, or memories of any kind, and it's 95% of your perception about the world around you and even about yourself, and these negative pathways are the ones that you go to the most, you're going to end up in a bit of a mess. Right? You're going to end up in trauma. You're going to end up accessing those things. And every time you access it, remember, you make it a little bit stronger. So what kind of life do you think that person will have? Look inside your own life and don't get emotionally involved at this point. Just take an outsider's look in and see if you can notice where this would apply to you. Is that making any sense with the concepts and the things that you're going through, maybe the struggles that you're going through in your own life? Kind of interesting, isn't it? It's an interesting look at how some of this works. And we hear about the subconscious mind a lot. We hear about awareness a lot. People are talking more and more about meditation, and you hear all these great studies on meditation and how it helps change the landscape of your brain, and it truly does. And what you're actually doing is changing that neuroplasticity. What we're actually doing is shuffling around those neurons and proteins, breaking apart the old information, and then you're able to insert and put in new information. So let's take another look. Let's take a little deeper look. What's the difference between subconscious change and conscious, or techniques that work on conscious change? So if you think about it, the things that work on consciousness, on a level of consciousness, are the traditional tools such as affirmations and mantras. Talk therapy generally works on a conscious level, unless you get somebody who knows EMDR or brain spotting or one of those type of things, or EFT. Even positive thinking works on a level of consciousness, so at that level of awareness. So you have to be aware of what you're thinking in order for that to work for you. Willpower is a consciousness thing. Reading self-help books, making vision boards, writing in journals, visualizing, they're all predominantly limited to the conscious mind at the level of awareness. Okay, which is an awesome thing if you can stay there, if you can keep your thinking. But remember, that's only 5% of your thinking capacity. So staying at that level of awareness, that's why it's so tough for most people. What we want to do is get your subconscious mind in a line with your conscious mind so that your level of awareness, those things that you want to be aware of, are your go-to instead of that only 5%. We want to train your subconscious mind to go to the things that you want in your life instead of going back to the negative things or the things from your childhood that no longer benefit you. And they may not have been negative, don't get me wrong, not everything was negative in childhood, but it stayed in that child mind. Subconscious mind does not age, it doesn't grow. So once it's got something locked in there, it's locked in at whatever it learned it at, whatever level it learned it at, whatever age it learned it at. So if you don't go in and upgrade the information and upgrade the neuro pathway, and sometimes that happens by default. If you're stuck in fight and flight and you're stuck in a chemical soup that's not allowing that kind of growth in your subconscious mind and that change out in neuroplasticity, that's where we get stuck and that's where things get sticky. So all of the things that were mentioned before, let's go back here for a second. The talk therapy, the positive thinking, willpower, the mantras, the vision boards, all of those things, writing in journals, they are very helpful and they're very awesome things to do. I actually use quite a few of those myself, but they're very limited in effectiveness if you're trying to get into the subconscious mind. If the conscious mind processes were all that were needed to change the subconscious mind, we would already all be doing that, and we would be all that we wanted to be in our lives. So they're great tools, but they take time and repetition, and when trying to clear the negative input of the subconscious mind, they're just not super effective. So let's talk for a second about what a subconscious belief is, and then we'll talk more about what we can do and what is more effective. According to the dictionary, the subconscious mind, remember this, is the part of the mind which is not fully aware, but it influences one's actions and one's feelings. So a subconscious belief is something that you have tagged for lack of a better word, to the actions and feelings of your subconscious mind. It's that stuff that's locked in there into your subconscious mind, and you believe it like it's truth. You believe it about yourself, you believe it about the world around you, and it becomes part of your belief system. You can probably access that belief from a memory and take it back to a time in your life when the thing actually occurred. And maybe you can't, a lot of people can't. I know I can't with mine because I don't actually remember my childhood, but I know that I've found a few people who can actually trail it back, and when we get to that place where you find where it's sitting inside the memory and that belief came out of that memory and they're like, oh man, right? And now we have room and really quick access actually to change that thing out. So a subconscious belief, is merely something that you probably learned along the way and you took it on as truth about your person, about the world around you. And those are the things that can change. If they don't change and grow with you as you change and grow, that's where people end up in a mess. Okay, so from the mind, thinking new thoughts. Remember the mind is outside of the body, outside of that scope. So those are the aha thoughts, thinking new things. And having new experiences, to the brain, which is a storage locker. So when you think a thought, it comes into the brain, which is a storage locker, and that's where you build that neuroplasticity. So a protein and a neuron bond is formed in your brain every time you think a thought. Every time you think that same thought, another bond is formed, and you're creating a pathway. A chain is being formed, a pathway is being formed. On a scan, like I said before, it's described as looking like a branch of a tree. So it can go out at many different angles and reach into many different areas. So a lot of people will describe it as a loop. You say you get into that loop of negativity, right? Think of everyday experiences as input for your brain, and your actions as thought and thoughts as output. A feedback loop is formed, and the old cliche about a computer software is very true here. Garbage in, garbage out. So what you put into the brain is what you're going to get back out. It applies to all feedback loops. So the toxic experiences that shape the brain quite differently, or the toxic experiences, shape the brain quite differently from healthy ones. And in regards to that, they shape your reality quite differently too. right? And you can see that in your daily walk. You can see that looking at a person who is on a daily basis, if you've ever stood next to somebody who's always very positive in their life versus somebody who has a pretty rough time getting through it. You can see in their daily existence how these toxic experiences and the beliefs, the things that they believe about themselves will shape their life. It shapes your reactions, it shapes your actions, right? Same, you can take the same exact subject and put these two different kinds of people standing next to it and come up with two totally different outcomes. It's really quite interesting to watch. And if you can guide the person in the negative loop into that chain and that reality of positivity, that's where you actually start breaking apart neuroplasticity and are able to change it out and give them an upgrade. So here's another way of looking at it. This was actually from a class I taught years ago. Negative thoughts that are inward and collapsing kind of look like this spiraling loop, this little tornado under here. And they're dark and they're collapsing and they don't feel good even looking into that, right? It just kind of makes you cave into yourself. And it digs itself deeper and deeper every time it plays in your mind and it holds you captive. Can you think of a thought that you have like that just holds you captive? It just sucks you in and you go round and round and round in your head. You're either in a fight with somebody, and you're just replaying this fight over and over. It could be somebody you're just mad at, like an incident happened, and in your brain you're turning it into a fight, right? And you're turning that issue, you're turning the proverbial mountain or molehill into a mountain. Have you ever heard that saying before, right? And the bigger the mountain gets, the harder it is to get off of. We just let it play over and over and over. Well, the same thing happens with positive thoughts. It's the outward, expressive, positive, amazing thoughts that people, who are in positive mindset. When you stand next to them, you feel this open, expressive, outward, loving, caring feeling. Those also dig themselves deeper and deeper, and every time they play in your mind, they hold you captive. Isn't that interesting? It's open, it's outward, it's positive, it's expressive. So those are the kind of loops that we want to create, and we want to make those loops the go-to. So it seems like common sense. And now neuroscience has actually joined forces with genetics to reveal that right down to the level of DNA, and this is by Dr. Rudolph E. Tanzi, the feedback loop that embraces mind and body is profoundly changed by the input processed by the brain. Okay, it's exactly what we're talking here. And that's why you'll hear a lot of the people or the things you listen to and the stuff that you read say that, we don't know what the subconscious mind is. We don't know where it is. It's kind of this, idea. It's a concept. I think it's the neuroplasticity. I think they're talking about the same thing. They just haven't put it together yet, and maybe some of them have. I think Dr. Caroline Leaf may have said that at one point. To me, it sounds like the same thing. So if we can take care of the neuroplasticity and upgrade it, overwrite it, as Dr. Bruce Lipton would say, overwrite the neuroplasticity, your subconscious thoughts, beliefs, and memories, and the memories themselves stay intact. You've still got your memories. They just won't be as accessible. They won't be up in your face all the time, which is not a bad thing. So how does this work? Your brain, it's like a storage locker. Let's go through this one more time. It collects information and it files it away for later use. Most of us are just not filing things away. They're left out and open like a filing cabinet, just throwing stuff up in the air. It's all in disarray. What does this do in your life? It causes mayhem, chaos, disorder, frustration, physical illness, depression, confusion, right? A life full of turmoil. So can you name anything in your life that may be a subconscious issue? Think through this for a second. Do you see patterns that you've been repeating? Any negative thoughts or phrases that you can say over and over to yourself, or that you do say over and over to yourself? Can you point those out? Are there places in your life that you'd like to change, that you've tried to change? So what your subconscious does basically is that it reminds you of where you've been. It doesn't know time. It doesn't base its judgments on your current age. And if you're living through a lens of what happened when you were 5 years old and your brain doesn't realize that you're now 39, 49, 59, you may have some serious struggles going on. No one will say indefinitely where the subconscious mind sits, but your subconscious beliefs come from your subconscious mind. Your thoughts, beliefs, and memories are based on your neuroplasticity. Okay, so that's the subconscious mind, the conscious mind, and the brain, all in a little nutshell. I hope that was helpful. It's a lot of information. I hope this actually recorded properly. I'm not real good at this stuff yet, so we're going to keep trying. But go to mindrewire.com. I have tools for subconscious change. I've got a whole program rolled out. It's actually a really cool strategy that teaches it to you in 8 weeks on how to change the subconscious mind, how to go in and scrub some of these neural pathways clean and create some new ones. It's actually a lot of fun and gives you a different perception on your energy and how you can use it inside of this life. So this is the page there that you can go to. And I hope to see you over there. I hope to see you in the program. Go ahead and comment on here if this helped at all. If this is something that you want to see more of, let me know that too. And we'll be speaking to you hopefully again soon.